Hi, Misha here. I first acquired this gun 4 years ago in 2019, right around SHOT Show, and I like to bring it out from time to time. Thought it was time to dust it off again, and also have a couple of new accessories for it. Let's talk about the KUSA Kalashnikov USA KR9. Just some thoughts, and also let Fox shoot it. He hasn't done so before. But before we get into present day, let's kind of look back at a few clips from old, previous shooting trips from the past. First shots out of the KR9. This is SIG 124 grain. KR9 second rounds with 115 grain Celerin Bellot SMG.
Winchester white box, cheapo Walmart, 115 grain. Clear.
KR9.
Sounds almost silent compared to those 12 gauges we were shooting.
Sounds like a stapler, like an electric stapler.
Yeah.
KR9. And to the present, 2023. Should say, of course, you know the deal. If you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to Patreon. It really is quite important these days. But if you can't, that's cool. A lot of people get the KP9, which is the pistol version, with about a 9.3-inch barrel. Interestingly, the original submachine gun has a slightly longer barrel, like 2-3 millimeters longer. But I preferred the KR9, the Carbine, which has about a 410 millimeter, so about a 16.1 or 2-inch barrel. And that's because it's very close to the Sega 9, the civilian version that we may have seen eventually in America if the ban on Kalashnikov concern guns had not come through in June of 2014. I also like having the original style metal folding stock and what have you. And the mags, they make a 10-rounder for banned states, but the standard mag is the 30 rounds here, and that's the same for the submachine gun. Mags are quite nice. These are KUSA copies of the original PP19 or Vityaz. They have metal reinforcements at the top. They actually have notches for stripper clip loading using a guide. Metal base plate, and the body is made from a fiberglass reinforced polyamide material. They're good. I've had these same set of mags since the beginning, and they still all work. And I found that the perfect pouch for these is this Czechoslovakian submachine gun pouch that they mostly used for their SA-24 4.26 guns, but it fits these Vityaz mags just fine. There's even a spot for a sectional cleaning rod on the side. I really like them. These patches were very affordable, so the mags fit in them very well. The only downside is you really can't have them coupled together, so that's why mine are not. The carbine, you have to put up with a 16-inch barrel, but you do get the original type metal stock. It looks like an AKS-74 or crank stock, but actually it has a different latch up here because it locks in here because the receiver is slightly shorter. Uses the 5.5 mil pin, so that's the same. It's just they're compensating for the shorter receiver. This is of course chambered for 9x19 parabellum NATO, and most of your 9mm AKs try to roll with a standard length AKM AK-74 receiver. So you need to have a a filler block somewhere. But with the PP19 style, the Sega 9 style, the Vityaz style, you don't, which is great. It saves on length and weight. Now, if you wanted a pistol, you could have this on. This is the arm brace that KUSA designed for the KP9 pistol. It uses the same folding hinge. It can even lock over on the gun. See there how it hooks. Please note, as of this time I'm making this video, braces are still not only legal, but it's still on for sale on websites. I just checked KUSA's website before doing this video. They're still up there for sale. Things are really weird, and yeah, that's a topic for a different video. But if you wanted to go with the 9 1/4 inch barrel pistol, you could put one of these on it. But again, I wanted to go with the carbine, and it served me very well over the years. Another difference, the pistols are threaded, I believe it's 14x1 left hand standard. The carbines are actually threaded 1/2x28, which has some advantages, but it does have one disadvantage, and that gets me to my next accessory, and then we'll get to the range. Flipping over here, this is a neat muzzle brake, but since it is right hand threaded, it tends to want to unscrew itself a little bit after you shoot quite a bit. Not a big deal, it's on long threads, and I don't want to unscrew it because of YouTube, but it doesn't really have a lock washer or anything behind it. Now, in the past I have put one on, and it keeps it pretty tight. But this is on top of a 16-inch barrel, adding length. Well, recently, long after I picked this gun up, KUSA kind of came up with a solution. Here we are unscrewed. See, there's quite a bit of thread. And here's what they've introduced much more recently. This is the KR9S fake suppressor. This is a no-way suppressor, YouTube. It is solid metal. It is basically a barrel shroud, a barrel cover. And it doesn't actually screw on to the end. That's not threaded here. It's reverse threaded, meaning the threads are at the end here. This is not a new technique. We used to use it quite a bit in the XM177, the Car 15 game, to make a 16-inch barrel look like an 11 or a 12-inch. And what's nice, it's notched here. And even though these are threaded out here, they actually still have the detent in the front sight base, meaning that it will lock on. So there's one advantage, aside from just the look of it, and one disadvantage to it. So here it is on the gun. It actually times up very nicely with no play. It helps that it has a pin back here and it's threaded up here, so it's secured on both ends, and it is meant for this 9mm barrel, so it doesn't rattle around. And the muzzle actually very slightly protrudes here, meaning that this is the minimum length allowed for a Title I gun, regular gun. We're not adding any length. when you had the brake on the end, this screwed on and then extended out, making the barrel around 17 inches. So this is a little bit shorter. Still legal, of course. The downside, this is a very lightweight piece. This does add some weight. In fact, let's do a little bit of weigh and measuring. So the numbers, when you have the original muzzle brake on, it is about 6 pounds, 12 ounces. That is empty, no magazine, but that does include my sling, because I wasn't going to take it off. Sorry. Overall length is just a hair under 34.4 inches with the stock deployed. If you fold the stock, you can take about 9.5 inches off. And when you switch to the fake suppressor, the weight, again including sling, goes up to 7 pounds, 7 ounces, meaning that it roughly weighs 12 ounces, and the original brake, of course, is around 1. The trade-off is the overall length drops to 33 and 0.4 inches. And again, if you fold the stock, you can take 9.5 inches off of that. So it does get quite compact, but it does add 3/4 of a pound. So it's up to you if it's worth the trade-off. So there you have it. It's up to you. I will say, because of the longer barrel and this being 9mm, you don't really notice this being a brake or not. And because of the added weight out here, it acts as just as good of a recoil check, if not even more so. But speaking of that, yeah, let's show the first mag that I ran through it this past weekend. And let's dust off the KR9 now with the faux suppressor. And did not hold up. No surprise, no problems. I've had this a very long time, and it's come out to the range countless times for countless reasons. Beyond testing, we had it out last summer for J. Rose's significant other, and because she liked shooting 9mm, and it seemed like a good comfortable 9mm for her to shoot, and it was. As you saw in the early clips, Jay picked up one of these, and he still does have his years later, so we both have them. And another friend of mine picked up the pistol version, the KP9, a couple of years ago. So there's at least 3 right here that have had rounds run through them, and I have truly lost count how many rounds this has had. Thousands. I would estimate roughly 5,000, but that's just a guess at this point. I kind of quit counting once we crossed around 2,500, and that was back when Jay was still doing the channel, so that tells you how long ago that was. It was a lot of fun, though. We haven't noticed any of the 5 mags that I own being problematic. We haven't noticed it preferring one type of ammo or another. 115 grain. There we go. Words. 124 grain. Even 147 grain. They all have worked fine. Brass, steel case, even some of the cheap, cheesy, cruddy alloy case stuff. Now this stock on a higher caliber gun might be kind of uncomfortable, being metal, but on this you don't notice it, and it's still very tight in the deployed and certainly the locked position. A couple of years ago we were doing a favorites video, I think it was a Q&A with J-Ro, and I was trying to unfold the stock and it was fighting with me, but it goes to show you that it is not rattly. Pistol grip is the kind of newer, large style. Rail on top. Got a short rail on the front sight. I considered putting the Vityaz rail handguards on, but I don't know, I kind of like the simple AK-74M style. I haven't really made any changes to it. It's me. We threw a sling on it, because that's me. And speaking of slings, and you know how much he loves my slings, let's see what Fox thinks of it. He's never fired any of these before, much less my gun here. Fox is going to try the KR9 for the first time. It was threatening rain, so I didn't have time to ask him on camera, as I usually do. But no, he liked it, and you saw it ran fine. I wouldn't say he doesn't like PCCs. He owns some. He loves his Scorpion Evo 3. But by and large, he's more of a rifle caliber person. But I definitely wanted him to try it out. And I'm happy it didn't jam for the first time ever. So why is the KR9 or KP9 so desirable? After all, we've had many different quote-unquote 9mm AK types. We had the PAC-9 and NAC-9 from Nova Module. We've had various offerings from PSA and others. So why is the KUSA version here special, unique? Why is it the one out of all of them, and I've owned pretty much all of them at one time or another, why is this the one I picked? Well, there's a few reasons above and beyond the fact that it is just reliable. For one, this is one of the very few, maybe only, semi-auto available to us that is at least based on an actual military issue submachine gun, one with history. The Nova modules, I researched as best I could, and I could not find any evidence that they were based on any kind of Romanian military submachine gun, unfortunately. And of course, PSA, it's done its own thing in various builds. But this here, it's based on the PP1901. Which is today the Russian Federation's standard issue submachine gun used by police, special forces, and actually technically in all branches, including the Navy and aerospace, their version of the Air Force. But its roots go all the way back to 1993, so right at the beginning of the non-Soviet era, when the company Vityaz became Izhmash, and actually the son of Mikhail Kalashnikov and the son of Dragunov, Alexei Dragunov, kind of spearheaded a team to make a new submachine gun. Russia didn't really have a standard submachine gun much. They developed several in the 70s and 80s, but they were pretty much relying on the AKS-74U. But that was going out of production. The last year was 92. And they were pretty much focusing on what would become the AK-105, and thus the AK-104, 103. Yeah, this gun here. Now we're going to let Fox try the KP-104. Also made by KUSA, by the way. But that was kind of to be the intermediate. It's firing 5.45 or 7.62 by 39, whichever case you buy, and it has a 12.5-inch barrel. The AKSU, the AKS-74U, had roughly an 8.5-inch barrel, depending on your exact version. But going up to that 12-inch some odd barrel gave a lot of benefits, but it also meant they didn't have a particularly lightweight and particularly compact gun. So they were looking to fill that void. And this would become the Bison project, initially known as the PP19. Earliest prototypes were around 95, 96, and there were quite a few. And it was a pretty darn small gun, with stock fully out, about 26 inches, with stock in, about 16 inches, And depending on the version, barrels could be quite compact, anywhere from 7 to 9 inches. And they tried several calibers, the 9x18 Makarov, of course, and they would tinker with 9x19. They would also do 380. There's even some experiments eventually with 7.62 25 Tokarev. And quite famously for these early Bisons, they were using a helical magazine that doubled as a foregrip. And these were anywhere from 63 to 57 rounds, depending on the type. And this was all based on an MVD, a Ministry of the Interior, Ministry of Defense type request. And they would pick up some of the Bisons in various types and calibers and what have you. The FSB used a few, border guards, some police, but it really wasn't there yet, and technology was progressing quite rapidly, and Izhmash was really developing its AK-100 series, so technology moved forward, and in 2004, the earliest prototypes of this version came about. Known as the PP-19-01 Vityaz, meaning night, the initial version was very similar to an AKS-74, an AK-105. We've already talked about the lengths and weights of the semi-auto here. The original submachine gun, now chambered for 9x19, although they did experiment with others, was quite light at about 6.4 pounds. Pretty short, at just under 28 inches with the stock deployed, and just under 19 inches with it folded. It had a barrel that was about 9.4 inches long, 237 millimeter, with a 1 in 9 twist, and it could fire standard ammunition, but it could also fire a new round that Russia was working on, high velocity, high power, meant for armor piercing, called the 7N31. So it could fire pretty powerful ammo. This is a direct blowback gun, the original submachine gun. And the initial version, the Vityaz, the standard, had an AK-74M style side rail. But it wouldn't be long before they would remove the side rail and go to a hinge top cover here with a Picatinny rail installed on it, and then other rails would start to appear, like the one here, and then railed handguards, and these are known as Vityaz SN. This, of course, just has a two-way selector, safe, semi, but the military SN version would have a middle position, of course, for full auto. It didn't have any burst mode, just safe, auto, and then semi down below. And of course, like with most Kalashnikovs, when it's in the safe, that physically blocks the bolt. It lets you check your chamber, but you can't load or unload a round. And it used these, at the time, new stick mags, double stack, double feed, getting away from the helical mag. It was a cool concept, but it just didn't work out for various reasons. Standard AK style release. And originally it used a standard AK-100 series pistol grip, although newer versions are featuring kind of these oversized grips. And it always used kind of this metal stock and various attachments. And, of course, a sound suppressor was optional. Again, this is a fake one, YouTube. But for the military gun, one benefit of the short barrel, you could put on a suppressor and still not make it too terribly heavy or long. The first versions of these were sent to the military for testing and trials in 2005, and they were adopted officially in 2008, again by the MVD, which the FSB operated underneath the Federal Border Guards as well, many different police agencies and police special forces, and quite interestingly, the Air Force, the aerospace, would start putting them in the kind of bug-out kit for pilots, especially after a few events with Russian pilots in Syria. Much for the same reason America has done their ASDW in recent years. So they have gotten around. About as common as any subgun can be. And they have made some improvements over the years. And our KUSA example here, based on factors, is kind of analogous to something, a version built, around 2009, 2010, 2011. And I think I've rambled enough, so let's put another round through it. KR9. Goes quick. What's nice about this gun, be it the SMG or the Mishaco, because they went to the trouble to design a special receiver, you save a lot of weight. This is a very lightweight stock back here too. Guns like the KR9 and PAC-9, they're noticeably heavier, even with the shorter barrels, because they have a thicker trunnion up front to push the barrel back, and they also have a thicker block in the back. We don't need all that here, that filler. So this is a specific receiver, and that's really great. Now, of course, this is just an upper handguard. This is not really a tube for anything except countermass. We have a front sight block, but it doesn't work as a gas block, blowback gun. Standard adjustable front sight. Standard AK rear. These are said to be good out to about 200 meters by Kalashnikov concern in Russia. Top rail. I would normally not like a top rail on a dust cover, as I said in that recent video on the CGR, but that's for a 7.62x39 gun. For a 9mm gun, especially because this is a shorter top cover anyway, it doesn't bug me. It has a polymer housing for the magazine, kind of like a Vepr 12, which is nice because the mags are almost straight insert and drop free. There's a little bit of rock to them, kind of like an MP5 mag, but not like a standard AK mag, because they are smaller and lighter, even fully loaded. You don't need to worry about a front latch. The rear is enough. Now, as I've kind of joked in the video clips already, there's no bolt hold open. It's it's still an AK system. I think they might have missed a trick, since they were designing a new receiver, a new mag well, and even a new mag for this. Maybe incorporating a bolt hold open device would have been a smart move, but they didn't. I guess it just wasn't part of their doctrine, and that's one of the benefits for the Russian military and police. The manual of arms, the handling, is the same as a Kalashnikov. Even a lot of the parts are the same, like pistol grip, handguard, some of the smaller pins and springs, what have you. And of course, these would have a chrome-lined, called hammer-forged barrel in military service, so they're good for a lot of round counts. And they've been purchased in pretty good quantities, but they haven't really been ordered outside of Russia. This was made really for users within the Russian Federation, what have you. And just flipping it over, standard sling attachments, dimples for the receiver. You do have XY stampings here, complete on the side. You do have the grip reinforcing plate, which is a standard thing for folding stocks. And of course, disassembly is the same as on any Kalashnikov for the most part. Again, because we're on YouTube, we can't do that on camera, so be right back. This has a hinged top cover, and inside it's probably very dirty, but simple blowback. There's no headspace as such on a blowback gun, because headspace is set by a locked breech. Now there are things like chamber depth, which is determined mainly by the barrel. The bolt face can also matter if it's worn. But yeah, basically it's just a direct blowback. The bolt goes forward until the cannot go any forward anymore, and then the hammer comes back. It's a closed bolt system and hits it. Firing pin in the rear. There's not much to it. Early on, one of the issues was reporting some cracking back here on the top cover from stress of firing. Funnily enough, that's also an issue that was reported with some of the early Vityaz and a lot of the early Sega 9s. And when it comes to the KUSAs, I saw it more frequently with the KP9s and the KRs, and I have no idea why. Mine seems fine. And there's wear, of course, but certainly not broken. Even the people who did, the worst thing is you might have a dust cover that didn't hold as good of a 0. So what about the guts of this guy? Well, this is it outside of the trigger group, really. We have a, well, it is a non-standard recoil spring. We have a bit of a block in the back here, a bit of a stop. Spring is very standard. It's not interchangeable with a standard Kalashnikov, but you can tell it's the same thing. And then our bolt group is unique. And really I should just say bolt. Notice there's no rotating head or even separate head. We have charging handle, and we have what would be a gas piston. It is even pinned on. Really, this acts as a counterweight. This is not getting hit by any gas. It's not a blowback. I mean, it's not a gas gun. It's just a blowback. But what it does is it gives that balancing weight to the bolt. For one thing, you don't have that teeter-totter effect, because sometimes if all your weight's back here, you're going to get that back and forth. But because of this being up forward, it still keeps some weight forward. Another, it just gives delay for the shooting of the gun, especially for the submachine gun that would use high-powered ammo. Pretty standard extractor. We do have a spring-loaded firing pin, and we have a firing pin safety and out-of-battery safety here. When this is not depressed, you cannot press the firing pin far enough to ignite a cartridge. It will only get depressed when it's far enough into the receiver to be in battery, letting the firing pin move freely. Very good for safety, especially on the select fire submachine gun, but even on a semi-auto. This is the only place I've had a minor issue with this gun, and I didn't even notice it until thousands of rounds in. This pin, after a while, can want to walk. And if it does, the worst that's going to happen is this safety, because it has a spring behind it, will fall out. But your firing pin is held in by a different pin and spring, so it's not going to fall out. So if you have a high round count one of these and you open it up and you notice there's a hole here, look inside your receiver. You'll find a long pin, a short spring, and this device. There's a few ways to fix it. Maybe a slightly larger retaining pin. Maybe you could slightly flare one of the ends of the pin. Just, you know, in there a little bit more. Because it does it because there's no tension on it when it's in battery, essentially. And so that just kind of moves freely, and it can slip out. That's the only issue I've noticed, and again, I didn't notice that until thousands of rounds in, and it's a very easy fix. And I think I've only noticed it walking out twice, and both times I was able to fix it with my hands, and it never caused a jam at the range. But if you're into rapid firing, that's probably a device you do want in effect. But that's all there is. It's a very simple gun, and you can tell that outside of the go fast parts, this is military spec, and that's kind of the benefit here. KUSA is the only one to even come close to offering a PP1901 Vityaz SN clone or copy in America. None of the other guns are even remotely close. KR9 again. Why not? Goes clip. So, yeah, one reason to own a KR9, KP9, if you're a Russian collector, is because it's really the only game in town, unless you maybe were able to score a parts kit. But that's infinitely more expensive than these, and I don't think these are priced crazy for what they are. They're not the cheapest, but we're not also talking $2,000. And again, the quality does seem to be there. It's up to you. Some have given them flack for taking proprietary mags, but if it were to take a different mag, it wouldn't be a Vityaz clone. And on top of that, these are good mags. They're light. They're easy to load by hand. You can also load them with clips. They're reliable. They seem durable. Might have all held up. And, probably most importantly, throughout the last 4 years, KUSA has offered these. In fact, you can get them in 5-packs. And price seems to fluctuate between $15 and $25 brand new, which for a mag is not bad, guys. Not everything can be surplus. So we talked about a couple of issues, including the dust cover cracking, which was resolved years ago. But recently, in 2022, there was also some problems with out-of-battery detonation, that kind of thing. What about that? I know these are happening. I also find it interesting that very similar reports for the CZ Scorpion Evo 3 were reported around the same time. I think we're kind of seeing, as we've said in other videos, a back-to-work after COVID thing here. Maybe the firing pin changed, what have you. The good news is KUSA just announced at SHOT Show they have a new firing pin. It has been produced, and it will start shipping in the new guns. And obviously, if you have a gun that you're concerned about, you can either get a replacement part sent to you, or you can send your gun in to have it fitted. There's a fix, and really that's all you can ask for. Me, myself, and I put another couple hundred rounds through this gun, a gun that's had thousands through it this weekend. I've had no kind of out-of-battery detonations, discharges, nothing even remotely scary, so I feel no need to replace the firing pin. I may go ahead and order a spare and just keep it in the mag pouch just in case. And it never hurts to have a spare firing pin regardless, guys. So even if you're like me and your gun's fine, hey, if they're offering a free one, take advantage. But it's an issue. They seem to have addressed it. Hopefully that's the end of it. I don't know. I'm sure there are some other random issues on forums that I haven't heard about. And I'm sure they exist. I'm sure there are QC fails. All I can report to you is how my gun is held up. I can also say that Jay's is held up fine. And the other friend who bought the pistol version, his is held up fine as well. So on top of this being a copy of a Russian submachine gun, but in semi-auto, it's also just a really fun 9mm carbine that's built to handle some pretty warm ammo and is kind of suitable for boys and girls of all ages. I mean, it's not too big, not too heavy, still a lot of fun, very versatile. You can put more rails on it if you want. The top cover mount is perfectly adequate for a 9mm gun. I really do like it, and I don't regret selling my PAC-9 and NAC-9 a couple of years ago. Not that they were bad, but this is just pretty well better in every way I can really think of. So, your mileage may vary. That's just my experience, and it's absolutely not a gun I regret picking up all those years ago. And I do enjoy the new faux suppressor. For one thing, it makes it a little shorter. I'm not sure about the weight vis-a-vis the muzzle brake, though. We'll see. But it does kind of look the part. Now, the KR9, the semi-automatic carbine that's available in Russia, made by Kalashnikov Concern, it has about a 13.5-inch barrel. So, what I was going to do originally was cut the barrel down to roughly 14 inches and permanently attach this brake, getting it very close to a KR9. But now with this suppressor, I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to think on it. So to me, this isn't so much a Vityaz SN as it is a KR9. And if we were to ever have received one from, say, Fime Group, it would have been like this, I'm sure. Folding stock probably, or maybe even a fixed stock, 16-inch barrel. And who knows, those might have been in the works because the Sega 9 was a new gun when our ban came through back in 2014. Now, when it comes to other KUSA guns that we can get Russian originals, imports, there's an argument to be made, maybe save up and get the Russian over the US copy. Absolutely fair play. I'm not selling my Sega anytime soon. Same goes for my SGO31. Same goes for my Sega 12, which has the folding stock. The KS12 is fine, we've shot it before, but I want my original. However, there is no Sega 9 original. Even if you were able to score a Russian parts kit, it won't be coming with the full receiver. It won't be with the full barrel. Who knows about the other parts? It's an American-made gun just as much as this one. And built from possibly used parts or reject parts or parts meant for an airsoft. You don't know because it's out of Russia. This at least I know, and I do know if there's an issue, cracking cover, wonky firing pin. It does have a warranty, and yes, I know there has been less than desirable results contacting KUSA's warranty recently, but there are also plenty of people that have contacted them with good results. They say they have heard this problem and have made steps to fix it. So personally, my inclination is to give them a chance. Also, personally, my experience with their warranty repair services have been very positive. For example, getting that safety for the KP104. That's just mine, though. And all these guns on here are ones I bought, not ones that were given, yada, yada, yada. I just thought I would say that. But yeah, I wanted to let Fox shoot this and let it stretch its legs and see how I like shooting it with this new muzzle device on. And it just kind of makes me happy. And it continues to be one that I don't plan on selling any day soon. So there we have it, folks. If you are wanting an AK 9mm, I still can't help but recommend this one. I just don't have a lot of detractions, especially for the KR9. Who knows about the whole brace thing for the KP9, but the KR9 is fine. And I do like having an actual solid stock for it. So, it's me. And, of course, the longer barrel. It doesn't look the worst on this, in my opinion. But no, I just haven't done an update on this gun in about a year. Thought we would. She's still doing good. Still hasn't gotten too rattly. The top cover's not loosey-goosey. The trigger still feels fine. The furniture hasn't gotten loose. The finish is like a paint finish. It wears, but nothing horrible. Hasn't rusted up or gotten dinged up. So, in my opinion, I wouldn't let the purported issues scare me off if I wanted a 9mm AK. Now, that's a big if. Some people may not. But if that's kind of what you're in the market for, go for it. Because this is as close as you're really going to get, unless things drastically change, to the current Russian Federation's submachine gun. And of course, these are seeing some combat deployment with the ongoing travesty, frankly, in Ukraine. And there's even an updated version that was approved back in 2020 called the PPK-20, no relation to Walter, that is basically a Vityaz updated with a new buttstock, new handguard, and it takes a new sound suppressor and a few other gadgets and gizmos. So basically, a remodel, a Gen 2 of this, if you will. Those are supposedly coming into service, but you know how Russia has been lately with stuff that's supposedly coming into service. They claim to have the AK-12 and many other things, and you look on the news, and they're still sporting not only AK-74Ms, but old school AK-74s. So, who knows? But, yeah. My KR9 is still a favorite, and it'll probably come out a few more times this year. let me know what you think. And let me know if you prefer the muzzle brake or the faux suppressor look, because I'm kind of going back and forth. Let me know. As always, if you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. And feel free to have a conversation in the comments. That's what they're there for. And Fox and I do try to chat. And again, if you'd like to help support us, buy some more 9mm and what have yous, check out the link to the Patreon. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.